Also, we have a microphone going around, so just wait a second until it gets here. Eric, you want to start there?
Sure, thanks, Sam. Excellent panel. Thanks for your insights on this. Sarah Bowden, you talked about how modernizing the rules of origin in this agreement is going to be a substantial consumer benefit in your sector. And Giannis, you talked about focused on apparel. And Sarah Thorne, you touched on the rules of origin on apparel, which were over the course of this negotiation a major focus in the apparel talks. And you know, the thing about rules of origin is that they can really substantially diminish the benefit of a trade agreement even when you're seeing substantial tariff cuts, because if you don't have workable rules of origin, it makes it very difficult to take advantage of those tariff cuts, and also the compliance costs can be extraordinarily high. So I was wondering, Giannis and Sarah, if you could just dive a little deeper onto the details on the apparel rules of origin in this agreement and some of the challenges that you see, or how you said you had to be creative. How do you know, what's your analysis on this?
So I'll start. So I think you have to look, when you look at the apparel rules of origin, first you have to understand how you source. So our supply chain is very decentralized. We don't do as much direct importing as a Target or a Gap. And so for us, it's much more complicated in some ways for Walmart to adhere to a yarn forward rules of origin, because it becomes immeasurably more complex, which adds time and cost and friction in the trade. So what we had advocated for were exceptions to that rule, cut and sew. And so where we'll see probably the immediate benefit is in those exception, in those cut and sew categories. We will see some benefit in the short supply list, which again are yarns and fabrics that can qualify for that cut and sew type rule of origin. We don't think we'll see a lot of immediate duty benefit for those broader yarn forward categories, also because a lot of what we actually import is in the back of the bus of the duty cuts. So their basic cottons, your t-shirts, your khakis, a lot of those won't see duty benefits for at least 12 years. That said, I think this is an agreement to watch, because I do think Vietnam is aware that they were going to have a yarn forward rule ultimately. I think they're doing very creative things in terms of investment, and the investors in Vietnam are looking at how could we have the domestic capacity to meet a yarn forward rule when those duties are eliminated. So that, I think, is a space that we'll be watching. Our suppliers are very creative. It's a very cost competitive industry. And Vietnam, as Giannis had pointed out, is a unique partner in that they have competitive industries with good sewing skills and the ability to do vertical investment. So I think it will be interesting to see if this is the country that could actually make yarn forward work on its face. But Giannis has a different sourcing model.
Great, it's a great question. And I think it's also important to note that, you know, while we're supportive of the TPP, it's by no means sort of an easy home run, right? I mean, it is a balanced agreement where the rules are difficult and sensitivities were carved out, but nevertheless we see opportunity. You know, we see opportunity in the short supply list, in swim, for example, and being the largest swimwear retailer, that flexibility is really important. But as Sarah notes, our sourcing models as a company as companies are different. We have an internal target sourcing services, basically a separate corporation within our corporation, which has sourcing expertise globally on the ground, and that gives us the ability, and it's not easy, but we have that expertise to navigate these rules, to identify what can be sourced from where, and how to piece all this together. So the rules are complex, and it does take significant investment of time and expertise, but, you know, ultimately we're hopeful and confident we can make it work.